What's up, Squadron? Aviation has given me a ton of amazing experiences.
Good job there. Nice rock, high wing.
But more importantly, it's introduced me to a whole new family of friends.
Like, dude, you're killing it. You're having a great day.
So just never give up.
Airport, and then, oh, by the way, I got carb ice while I was flying too, so the engine started running rough, and I had to
Join us tonight as we're cleared direct for some hangar flying. I am Bryon Bowman, and this is SuperAero Live.
I was alive. I've been a while cooking. What's up, Av Geeks? Whoa, I came in hot on the mic there because I'm so pumped to see all of you again after a few weeks off. Oh, I needed to recharge my batteries, but this is an airplane show, so I needed to refill my tanks. Get ready to go for some more stuff. Really excited to see all of you in the chat. Sorry about the delay as we got some technical issues sorted out, including an exploding, perfectly foamy coffee that perfectly foamily exploded all over my desk. Got to say hi to a couple of our friends in the chat. James Hyatt, Gary Smith, Fly Chucky Fly, Constance McCorkle is in the chat. Matt Pollock's in the chat. First time I think I've seen him in there. He's a new partner in Uncle Victor. It's great to have you here. Canyon K is here. Jeff Jensen. Just scrolling through the names. Todd Johnson. Marty's here, of course. 782 Papa's here. You guys are fighting about stuff in the chat in a good-natured way. Zach Sherman, did I say her name already? Scarface! So great to see you, Scarface. Everyone's in the chat. I love that you guys are talking about how we are late. You wouldn't have it any other way if we weren't late. James Hyatt, Clucky's here, and Just Plain Silly's entered the chat. I'm just a little props to him. Hey, props. This whole Trevor, what's his name guy thing. One, you would ask me, did he do it? I think it would appear that way. I didn't make a video about it because it didn't seem there was much to add, but you should instead go watch Brian Turner's video on this whole fire extinguishers in the pants. What is even happening? Fire extinguishers in the pants. Go watch his videos about it. They're good for a laugh, and that's what we're talking about tonight. I got a hint. Who's on the show tonight? Look at that. This guy. He did some bush in it. I just take my shirts off. There he is. Angle. Oh, which man boob is it? There it is. Chris Palmer's here tonight. Let me put him on the screen. Hey.
Hey, finally.
We did it.
Yay. Got everything figured out. We can use technology after all.
We can totally figure it out. And what I want to talk, I would realize this, Chris. So you and I chat every once in a while. But what's been really great is now it's a tradition, the first show back after the holidays now for 2 years in a row has been you.
Oh, really?
We didn't even plan it that way. I was just like, hey, you want to get on the show? And you're like, sure. I got this cool thing.
And I even made you change the day.
You did. You flipped. Yeah, you were going to be next week, and you flipped it forward, and now it's tradition. Well, no,
Exactly.
next year.
Gotta
Next
keep it
year
up,
it'll
man.
be 3 times, right? Three times is tradition.
I don't know. 2 years kind of seems like a tradition.
Anyway,
I'm calling it 2.
Calling it 2. I'm excited to have you on the show. Last year you came on and we made some goals for each other, and I don't even remember what we said. But this year we're going to talk about an epic thing that you did. So folks in the chat, just commenting on this Trevor thing. I don't know if you want to talk about that at all. It's probably not even worth it. But they
Maybe
said,
for a couple seconds, yeah.
They said, "Are those fire extinguishers in your pants? Or are you just happy to see me?" It was in the legs. It was in the calves. It was. He was wearing Jenko jeans. And Canyon K says it's the gift that keeps on giving. And I want to I want to hear your perspective on it. My initial read was anger. Initially, I got angry. Now that we were like, I've moved through that stage of grief, whatever. And
Yeah.
now I'm like, the gif of Michael Jackson eating popcorn in the Thriller music video? That's me
Yeah.
now. I'm like,
Yeah.
I told the story about this whole thing to a bunch of my we were in Cedar Rapids a couple nights ago. We were eating, getting dinner before we all crashed for the night in the hotel. And I told them this story, and they were like, "This is amazing." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm still mad. I'm still frustrated, but also at this point, like I'm in the roller coaster ride. I can't wait to see what happens next." Anyway, I'll give you a chance.
I don't
I'm
know.
doing too much talking. You respond. You tell me what you think of it.
I hope there's a bit of a public process, a good public flogging for this, because I don't know, the FAA could keep things really private and not really share a lot about that, but I think pilots that work so hard to, I don't know, be safe and do the right thing, which is the vast majority, by the way.
It's true.
Just like, this is personally offensive to us, that someone would even do this, that someone would even suggest you need a parachute to go fly. Are you kidding me? When did that start being a thing? I don't know.
Well, and I want to be clear.
Apparently, it started for him on that one flight, by the way.
Yeah. Here's the thing I'll say. The last thing I'll say about it is, like, I'm joking about being on the roller coaster ride, but like 100% could have killed somebody. Right?
Oh yeah.
Like murder. So like, I just want to like make sure everyone understands that, like, the only reason I can even joke about it is because it ended literally, I believe, by luck. And all the way it did. And, yeah, like, now I can joke. But, like, wow.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm pretty sure the fire extinguisher thing is just an admission of guilt. It's like, oh yeah, my plane crashing might start a forest fire, so I'm gonna put a couple fire extinguishers right here.
I always wear a parachute when I fly. Never fly a plane without wearing a parachute. Also, never fly a plane without taping fire extinguishers to your legs.
Exactly. Maybe he was gonna use them like Iron Man jets, little vector jets when he was on his parachute.
Freedom Fixer says, "I'm so sick of hearing about that story. Don't unsubscribe, Freedom Fixer. We're almost done. We're almost done.
We gave it 3 minutes.
Yeah, we gave it a few minutes. It's like, I have this vision of him like pulling the fire extinguishers out and like trying to blast his way around on the parachute. Seriously though, total BS. I agree. I want there to be some sort of public process about this whole thing. It's something else. Also, the plane, it came out, the Tejeiro craft, was named Puddles. The previous owner came out and said, they wrote a little blog post about it. So I just want to say R.I.P. Puddles. We're all so sorry.
Sorry, Puddles.
Sorry, Puddles.
Sorry you met your demise after 70 years.
God, it's just stupid. I'm still finding coffee on my desk right now. Anyway, let's talk about you. You're not doing stuff like that, but you are doing adventures. What have you been up to, man? It's been a year, Ted. What's going on? What's new?
So I guess it wasn't the last time I saw you in person, because you and I saw each other at AirVenture, but you stopped by the hangar in Oshkosh when I was down there. And
that's right.
For those of you that follow me, I flew this 172 behind me all the way down to Oshkosh, off season, so not during AirVenture, to get the avionics redone. Documented the whole journey. Just released a bunch of YouTube videos on the going down part, so the trip down, which was a whole thing because we did it the first week of March, and lots of snow. That's all I can say. And then went through the install process, went through the flying home process. All that happened last year, and yeah, man, it's been a roller coaster. Just now that I'm back, which obviously happened a long time ago, getting the airplane flying again. It's hard to take your airplane away for that long, so Had a lot of fun flying this summer. Did a lot of IFR with the new panel. Time flies. I don't know what else to say. It's hard to believe that this time last year I was planning that trip, and I don't know. It just seems like yesterday. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, and we came up. So I did a little flight up to visit you while you were working on stuff, which was pretty cool to get to hang out. And the thing that I wanted, there are a couple things that were remarkable. I mean, I think we're going to talk about the panel later. But the thing that was remarkable to me was the transformation of your aircraft in kind of all aspects. Like, the panel is like maybe the like flagship change, but like we were there and they were bringing in, they brought in a door that they had polished and rejuvenated the door, and like even now, like over your shoulder, we can see like the nice gloss, like shine of the aircraft. Like she got like it was like a nice little freshen up, and the pride in your eyes as you were like watching all these like master craftsmen and women work on the plane was just really cool to watch. I mean, obviously I was also felt kind of special because I got to see what was going on, but also just literally seeing you and seeing them all, like you were putting in sweat equity on it too, like everyone working together to help create this. So that was just a cool experience. I've never seen anything like that before. It was pretty cool to see.
Yeah, and it's very unique from a pilot perspective because obviously we all deal with that stuff on surface level. I think even maintenance type things like 100 hours, oil changes, change over your tires, like even being involved on your annual. I think the more experience you get on a pilot, more experience you get as a pilot, the more little opportunities you have to kind of dip your toes in the water on things like that. But when it comes to the electronics, the avionics, not a lot of people get to peel back all the layers on their panel and see what's going on behind the scenes. And they certainly don't get to see it come back together. So it was a really unique experience to be a part of that the whole way through and learn just a lot of details about the process. It's pretty wild. And I don't know, I have a whole new level of respect for avionics technicians. I don't think there are enough of them. I don't think it's very high on the radar in terms of career, but it should be because, I'm a tech nerd. I think you're kind of a tech nerd.
Yeah.
I just found it really, really interesting, the whole process, and I still do. I look back and I look at my panel now and how technologically advanced it is, if you will, and I'm just really impressed at what can be done with an old airplane to bring it up to snuff in today's world. So it's really gone through that transformation. It's gone through its paces since then, and I'm just still so happy with it. I mean, I'm in this position now where literally it's pretty hard to produce videos. You know how it is. That's what you do for a living.
Right.
And we're in this process right now where that's all we're editing like every week is we're looking back at that process, and it's really amazing. Like it was a big, bold move to go from Alaska all the way down to Wisconsin to be with New View Technologies down there, and Jessica, my friend, who you guys will get to know through the YouTube series. And yeah, it's a whirlwind. Like still almost a year later, it's a whirlwind.
Well, it's funny. I remember talking to you after you made the return trip back to Alaska, and I was like, how are you? And you're like, I need a minute. It was like, it's just a lot. Okay, so we got two different paths we could go on right now. Obviously, in the chat's blown up. By the way, folks, if you have questions, as you know, if you're new to the show, subscribe. That would be a thing you could do. Would love to have you in the squadron. But no, so if you're new to the show, you can just throw questions in the chat, and I'll ask the good ones to Chris. But some questions. Oh, I probably ask all of them. Some questions about the panel coming up. People want to see the panel, but I want to know, like, I guess, do you want to start panel and then go adventure, or do you want to go adventure and go panel? Well, you're the guest of honor.
Let's do chronological. Yeah, let's do chronological. The going down, the doing the panel, the coming back.
Right. It's a teaser.
So all in
it's
order.
A teaser. You got to wait in
Yeah.
suspense. Matt Pollock was like, I want to see some interior shots of the panel. You will in a minute.
Could you pull up the picture of the old panel first?
You bet I could.
To show them where we were starting.
Check that out. You probably
There you
can't
go.
see it. Can you see it?
I can, yeah.
On your end? Yeah, there you go. Yeah, so there's the old panel. And you were talking a little, maybe we should do like a specs thing here for a second. Like, walk people through the aircraft.
Sure.
In case they aren't familiar with the channel.
Yeah, we won't have to spend too much time there, but 2-3 uniform. It's a 1963 172. Kind of an interesting year. It was the first year with the back window and the slanted tail, and one of the last years with the manual flaps. So for like Alaska flying, it's kind of cool because it has both. Very basic though. Has the basic 6 instruments. Doesn't have an HSI or anything. Doesn't have any IFR capability. The pitot-static did pass like an IFR test, but the only thing that could be used for navigation is the VOR. You can kind of see that just below the vertical speed indicator. And then we did have a transponder installed for ADS-B, so you can see that up there. So that was like the only modern piece of instrumentation in the airplane, and then a really old navcom right below that. So that's basically the gist of what we have. Obviously you have your engine instruments, getting a look into the engine, but that's what came standard in the airplane. And then a tachometer, a Hobbs. That's the extent to what the airplane had. So that's where we started. Literally, kid you not, we literally spent 6 weeks to 8 weeks preparing for this, getting all the paperwork in order and everything to go, and pack up the plane, say goodbye to my family, cry my eyes out for a while I did that, because this was serious stuff, man. Like I am going into the depths of the Rocky Mountains in Canada. In the wintertime, we had a bunch of survival gear in the airplane, and it was just real. Anyway, we pull out and we call up the flight service station that's there on the field, and radio doesn't work. Like, what the heck? Like, we listened to the ATIS, but the radio wouldn't work. Well, in this particular radio, if you over tighten the radio, then you can damage these wafers that are behind, and literally the radio bombed before we could even leave. So there's going to be lots of spoiler alerts here, but because all of this is documented through the YouTube videos, but we found a guy on the field, like an emergency, that had the same radio that we could basically just slide in, and that radio worked. So we ended up borrowing the radio, slid it in, borrowed the radio to go down south, because mine crapped out literally when we went to leave. Now, there's chapters, if you skip ahead there on that video, you'll actually see that part probably about a fifth the way through, maybe.
Yeah,
Get radio failure. Yep. So this is where we called up and taxied back to the hangar, or maybe this is where we're actually... No, yep, taxiing back to the hangar to get it checked.
Look at that. I don't know if I've ever even seen that sort of thing before.
It's pretty cool. I mean, it's pretty cool technology, right, for what people had to work with at the time, but it's really easy to damage the mechanical pieces back there. It's kind of crazy. So we slid that guy's in, then you can see my face of relief as we did a radio test here. It's like, oh, praise the Lord, we can leave.
And then you're off. Then you're off.
Then we're off, man. 30 knot winds, blowy and gusty, and yep.
So, talk to me a little bit about. I mean, we'll just let this play out a little bit, if that's okay. Like, talk to me.
Sure.
Talk to me about what kind of considerations you're making for a trip like this compared to. I mean, obviously, when we've had you on the show previously, you've talked a little bit about just the differences in flying in Alaska, and I'll after the show I'll go put the previous times you've been on to, we've talked a lot about like what pilots can learn from the type of flying you're doing up in Alaska. It's very different from the flying I'm doing in Wisconsin, but wondering about what sort of things are even more different. You know, like, this is an epic trip over some epic terrain. Like, are there additional or different considerations beyond the survival gear as you're, like, flight planning, things like that?
Oh, yeah, it kept me up for weeks ahead of time just thinking about it. There are different routes to go, so we could go the coastal route down to Seattle. The issue with that is the weather is almost always, well, the weather is worse along the coastline there than it ever is like inland. So the other route is the Alcan Highway, the Alaska-Canada Highway that was built during World War II to get military equipment up to Alaska. And that road still exists. It's the only road that goes to Alaska. And so the nice thing about following that road too is you always have a place to land, and you have a bunch of more towns, more available options in between. Whereas if we had an emergency along the coastline, it's not even I don't know, good coastline. You know, there aren't a ton of nice beaches to land on. It's not like you have a beach you can just put down on. It's jaggedy rocks and cliffs a lot of the way. So I don't know, just weighing the options, it seemed like that was a much better option. Obviously, survival gear is a huge thing, so we thought about that. Well, when you add a bunch of survival gear and weight to an airplane, and you're planning on doing kind of maximum distance legs, maximum endurance legs, you end up max gross weight. So then you've got performance issues on top of that.
Sure.
That mostly alleviated itself with just the lower density altitude in the wintertime, so we didn't worry too much about performance. It kind of took care of itself. It's actually really amazing how well the airplane performs at max gross weight. It does fine. We did some videos as well on the emergency gear that we took, and then the flight planning as well, and what that decision-making process was. We didn't preheating an airplane if you don't have a hangar is a huge deal. So we called a bunch of people, like FBOs and things along the way, made a huge list of basically amenities, like where could we go to get the airplane hangared every night. And a lot of our decision making would also be based on things like that. Do we have a good place to stay? Is it going to be comfortable for us? Because we're also going to be fighting, that fatigue that you get when you're flying that many days in a row.
And that just as a side note, like that's a real thing. And
right.
I think if you watch the video, like the video series, like you start to see that. It becomes a little more apparent, right? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, and I wish it did. I wish it could be more apparent. It's like you've got to edit for YouTube as well. So, we would do a 9-hour day and we would squeeze it down into a 30 to 40 minute video. Well, that 9-hour day, there was a lot going on during that process. Sometimes not as much, sometimes we did have a straight line and smooth sailing and it was pretty good. Like there were times where it was a little bit more relaxed, but when you're flying through the Rockies and you're kind of doing a winding path and checking your fuel and your winds and all that, it's just a lot in one day. And then you do multiple days in a row. And it's just a lot. It was a lot all at once.
And then the other thing is that, you're running into, just to kind of push it along as we chat about this, right? Like, this is the other part that adds to it, right? Is you've got, this is from the second episode, like, you start special VFR and then, like, you're mountain flying in, like, big time weather deterioration, right? So, like, that's all adding to, like, that mental load.
Yep, and obviously we were very careful with our weather, our planning. We didn't. The thing about a trip like this and the sort of distances we had to fly to go to an airport. So, for example, like leaving the U.S., starting in Tok, and going to Whitehorse, which was the only place we were allowed to stop. It's like a 3-hour flight, and you can't just get 2.5 hours in and decide you're going to turn around because there's weather. Like, you have to go somewhere. So
Right.
obviously you want to go with basically a surety that the weather is fine. So there was a lot of that sort of decision making that went into this. And like you said, in this particular situation, this was really the only really tough weather that we got into the whole time. And just the nature of it and this specific instance, we felt it was okay to continue because we were basically doing Class G minimums. Even though technically the flight visibility was about 3 miles. 3 miles, if you have 3 miles visibility, you can hardly see a thing out the window.
Right.
It's pretty wild. And even though it was wintertime and there was moisture in the air, you could see like these ice crystals in the air. It wasn't sticking to the plane in any way. So we felt okay continuing because it wasn't deteriorating, and we had a couple options to land, like, because we were still in Alaska, we had a couple options to land pretty immediately if that didn't work out. So, yeah, that particular instance was got pretty real there for a while.
So, and by the way, Kyle Ludwig is in the chat, and he says, hurry up and just skip ahead to the panel. Just skip ahead to the panel. But I'm wondering, I guess, if you had just advice for folks based on that alone, like we've talked about the fatigue, we've talked about the flight planning, like are there other, and just in case people don't know, like you're a flight instructor, it's like what you do, right? Is that a teaching moment happening as we're watching these videos, right? Who's the guy sitting next to you? Like, what's that?
Yeah, so Daniel, it's actually a really cool story. Daniel is the previous owner of the airplane. I helped him get his private and commercial licenses in this airplane. Obviously, I've been using the airplane for a while. I've been leasing it for the flight school. So I tried to be careful in my videos to not say my airplane because it truly wasn't mine until right before I got the panel done. So that's Daniel. He's my neighbor. My boy calls him Neighbor Daniel. So I have good camaraderie with him, which is very important because he and I have a lot of, we just work really well together. And that was an instance where under stress, you could see that we were working well together. Sure. We did things like committed to each other that we weren't going to fly at night. We would not go IMC. We switched legs. So I would fly a leg, he would fly a leg. And like rules like that and having a nice hotel to stay in at each night and having a hangar, like all of those things just really help to kind of control things from spiraling. Like say that we wasted a day trying to warm up the airplane, like that would be, and then and then the weather deteriorated from there because we missed a good day of flying. Those are the sorts of things you don't want to get in. So I know it seems like we just kind of go, and at some point as a pilot, there's only so much planning you can do, but there was so much pre-planning to this process and so much thought that went into the contingencies of where we could go and if that would be feasible and what's the fuel like going there and, all sorts of things. My mind just goes a million miles an hour. So I think I tried to do a pretty good job throughout the series to just share those little teaching moments, and this was definitely a teaching moment. I talked a lot about it when we did it. If you guys go watch it and listen to the actual audio, lots of teaching moments, even though I'm a seasoned CFI, and even though both Daniel and I are commercial pilots, you'll still see us throughout the series being humble in the situations you're in, like Daniel asking me to watch out for him and me asking him to watch out for me, just knowing that we need each other to back each other up. So it was incredibly helpful. And there's maybe, if you remember, I won't give you too much of a spoiler, but there was a situation later on when we actually flew back, and it was the hardest flying we did the whole time. It was our last stop before getting home, where Daniel actually wanted me to do everything because he knew I had more experience. So it's just nice that you have that sort of camaraderie with someone where you can do that sort of thing.
There's Marty, who's in the chat. He's, one of my instructors and longtime supporter of the show. And I think the first time we flew together, he talked a lot about that. He was like, hey, this is like a pretty I thought it was like a riddle at first. We were just flying as friends. He's like, hey, like, it's a pretty small plane, right? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, yeah, there's no room for egos in here, right? The plane's too small for that. And that tone, right? Like setting that tone, like we're gonna work together, even though this is the first time we're flying together as buddies or whatever.
Right.
You can see that with you two as you like work through it. I have to ban another Russian bot in the chat. Dunlop Blankenship, adios. All right. So, and iDigidude says, I'm new and I like the channel, and they didn't charge me yet. You'll get the bill in about 6 weeks. Freedom Fixer Flying comments about your comment about 3 miles. That is very uncomfortable. And yeah, the first time I was doing 3 miles in VFR, I was like, wow, I'm in danger. It's definitely uncomfortable the first time you do it.
It really is.
And we're not even flying like really fast planes.
Right.
It just felt like it was hard to
it was.
stay.
I wouldn't even say it was like, I don't know, maybe I would. There was some pucker factor, but it was more like, okay, we've got this situation. Let's use all of our tools. Let's use each other as well, and let's figure this out. And it was pretty pleasant because of that, you know.
Yeah.
Went
well,
well.
and it's also like the other thing I want to come back to is that your comment about like all the minimums you set. Because I could see a world where this is not you. This is not the kind of person you are. But I could see the world where if someone with your experience could say like, "Hey, I'm a big shot Alaska pilot. Like I don't need a good bed to sleep in. I'll sleep in the hangar every night, and I'm gonna night. What? Let's go for it. You know what I mean? Like all those kind of decisions you made for comfort and fatigue and safety, and those agreements you made to each other. That's a really cool takeaway too, right? Like it is a grueling trip. I guess let me ask you this without revealing too much about, because I think it's fun to let people like go watch the series themselves. But any like get-theritis in play for you guys? I didn't ask about this yet in our private conversations. Is that ever? Did you feel that bubbling up at all?
Not really. I mean, when we went down, like we just had this understanding that it was going to take as long as it took. Like technically it would only take 5 days of flying, but we had 10 days to do it in, and we made sure that our family knew that it could take several weeks. We didn't really shove off until we had an idea that it was going to be doable. So what's the point of leaving home if there's a bunch of storms up ahead?
Sure.
We had 1 day of weather delays, but going down, we really didn't have get-theritis. But on the way back, I definitely felt some pressure on the way back because I'd already been gone from home for 2 weeks because I was there documenting the end of the panel install process. And I was there on my birthday. That wasn't planned. Really missed my family. And I just wanted to be home. You know, I'd been without the plane. I'd want to be home. And there was a lot of pressure to be there. And I just remember, you know, because it's May and you have really pretty long days during May in the northern latitudes. There was one day where we had already flown 9.5 hard hours, difficult hours, more difficult than any flight we had taken on the way down. And I kind of wanted to do another leg. But our agreement was, okay, let's get on the ground, let's get fuel and set up for customs and just kind of make a decision then. And as soon as we landed, it's like, we're kind of tired and the weather isn't as good as it could have been. It's going to be getting dark fairly soon. We don't need to be going. So that's exactly what we did. And there's only one place you can stop for customs coming back in, but there's some sort of loophole where you can stop places for fuel and then go on to Anchorage, like even if it's the middle of the night. But I don't know. I'm really glad we didn't do that. I don't know what would have come of it, but that's what safety decisions are like. You never know where your bad decision, a potentially bad decision would go, right? But you always try to make that good decision that deconflicts the situation. So I would say definitely on the way up was the time where I felt the pressure, not really on the way down.
Your wife's in the chat right now.
That's really funny.
She says, "Hi, Chris's wife here. We really wanted him back home. He had to spend a long time away for all of this, and we really missed him." And that, yeah, I missed you.
A caveat to that is my wife knows, and she's on board, that no matter what, we do the safe thing, even if it's inconvenient.
Right.
So that's just the way it is.
And it's funny because this is a little tangent, but like my wife and I, we got the very similar age children to yours. We have these 2 small kids, and we're in the position right now where I'm not taking flights that could put me in the situation where I would have to make that decision because of the inconvenience for our family. It's interesting. Like, I'm self-censoring the flying a little bit because I don't want to put her in that position based on our current family minimums, right? It's a little bit different. Like, flying for me is not work, right? Like, instead exactly. I'm saying, hey, sorry, I got to drive to Cedar Rapids tonight and I'll see you tomorrow. Like, I'm burning that capital in a little different way. But so that's just an interesting thing too. I was thinking about, like, man, yeah, like, you always got to do the safe thing. And for some people, if you're watching this, the safe thing might be like, well, I don't want to inconvenience somebody, so I should make the flight so I don't have that get their-itis popping in, right? I don't know. Preaching to the choir, I know. But
it's interesting because since people have seen me do that trip now, and they think like I'm just willing to do it anytime. Like, hey, I'm going to buy this airplane in California. Can you help me fly it up to Alaska? It's like, no. Like, I did that once. I did it for my own purposes. I did it for my own business. Like, I'm not in the business to do that. That's not what I do. It takes me away from my family too much. Let's be honest, it increases the risk to me. Mm-hmm. So it's something like, yeah, I know other people that would be willing to do that, but I'm not really one of them. So it's interesting. By the way, I don't know.
She says she tried calling you and you ignored the call, so that's why she tuned into YouTube instead. So that. So if Chelsea, just put in the chat whatever you need, Chelsea. Just put it in the chat, and we'll just.
Yeah. What do you need?
What do you need? We're here. And everyone's saying really nice things about you do have an amazing family. That's the thing that's coming up in the chat right now, and it's so cool to see your family. And my wife, she does deserve a shout out. We talked about this the other day because we had a pretty hard 2021, especially near the end with some personal family stuff. But we kind of rewound the clock and thought about what had happened. I'm like, you forgot that I was gone a ton of the beginning of the year, not only prepping for the trip because I was so engrossed in that, but flying the trip and then coming back. I did Sun and Fun, and then I went to Oshkosh for 2 weeks and did the panel install, and then it took a week to fly back. So all of that, I was gone. It was crazy. So that's not including Oshkosh and other things. So I had a pretty low level summer. I didn't do a lot of adventure flying like I usually do. I was pretty worn out at that point. I had my fill for the year in one fell swoop. So huge kudos to her because she is a big driver and supporter behind the scenes. And you know how it is. Even as a father, it hurts sometimes to be gone to provide. Not always easy, but it's not easy to be back home providing either. She says, by the way, I need help with bedtime for the boys, SOS. So I don't know if that's a joke. I get it, but if that's real, you could just go. You gotta go. No,
I won't. She's okay.
Okay.
But she probably does need help. But she's in California, so it's not like I can just disconnect and go home.
So you can't actually physically. So this is the thing. A little side note for folks. This just happened to me the other night. I was driving home from Cedar Rapids, and my daughters were being a handful, and my wife called me. Right? She called me and she said, "Could you just occupy these kids for a minute?" And I was like, "I'll do my best." And my daughters were it was they had the iPhone or whatever, and they were covering up the the mic, I couldn't hear what it was saying. So all my wife would hear was here. It sounded like I was just like totally phoning it in. And I was like, hello, anybody? And I'm like asking questions to my kids, and they're just ignoring me. And I just felt, this is what you're saying, totally helpless. Like trying, like you're like, I know, because I love you, I know you're going through some stuff right now with the kids. Kids are hard, and I am just totally unable to help. And that is that's a rough thing. People are advising her just to try Benadryl.
Yes, please. Drugs, the answer always. Okay, especially with children.
Absolutely.
Gosh.
No one's ever done that before. So people still want to see the James Hyatt, Melatonin. Yeah, boy, on point there. Let's talk about anything else that we should show from the episodes that you have so far. It's a great series. You can spend. I've actually not even made it all the way through, like Truth Time, because I've been busy with work. I've really enjoyed it.
It's a lot of material.
It's a lot. It's really, really well done. Is there anything you want to show before we talk about this panel thing a little bit more that Kyle is so anxious to see?
let's talk about two more things. So bring up I'll tell you where to go. I think it's day 3.
Day 3. I got part 1 or part 2.
Yep. Part 1.
Got it.
Just trying to think out loud, like where.
Yeah, this is real. Here,
where
we'll
it
put
is.
it up here.
And then you're gonna go like 2/3 into the video.
Oh,
Trying to get to my channel myself.
very good. We got the departure,
Where are we at there? Okay,
overflow,
departure. Yeah, keep going.
Teslin Lake, Timbits.
Timbits, baby. That's not what I'm trying to show you, by the way.
No, I know, but I just thought I'd play it. So people, it's like great television as you and I are like trying to navigate through the. Planning the next leg, Watson Lake.
Oh. Maybe it is part 2.
How many Timbits did you guys eat on this trip?
You can buy 50. You can buy a thing of 50 Timbits. So we ordered a thing of 50 Timbits in Whitehorse.
Oh,
and we didn't finish them all.
Oh man, if you would have brought me, I would have finished them all, single-handedly.
They were, I don't know, they kind of get gross after 4 days.
Got to eat them quicker.
Okay, so go to day 3, part 2, and then about 12 minutes where it says Wild Canada. I think that's where we're at.
Oh, look at that.
Yep. Yeah, this is a really special moment. Really beautiful area.
So, I mean, I wanted to ask you this this kind of brings a question back to my mind, right? Like, the first time you were on this show, we showed a lot of pictures of your local area, the glacier, like all this stuff that you're able to fly over kind of daily if you wanted to. Does that does that make this feel any less amazing?
No, it oddly enough, and Daniel and I were talking about that, and I think I even mentioned it sometime in the video, how the terrain is like, this looks like home. It's very similar with how the mountains are set up and the roads and the remoteness. But I don't know, just the novelty of it being a foreign country and it being new and a place we'd never been before, it was still very cool. So just felt different. It's hard to explain. But yeah, we really enjoyed even flying through Canada, even though it looked a lot like our home. Because we're, like, at this point, we're pretty near our own latitude from where we're at home. But it's still just different.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like I don't know. We're missing that reference there with the audio up. It's like I'm literally, as I look at this, like, my chest is tight a little bit, right? Because I know the kind of terrain it is, but I'm also a little awestruck. Well, a lot awestruck, actually. it's just something else. Just, like,
Well, you do
really
realize
something.
that we were wearing parachutes the whole time, right? Just in case anything happened.
Yeah, and I know the fire extinguishers were strapped in too.
I mean, that was a safety thing, right? We had that road underneath us, and even in this case, we took a detour. It took us longer to fly along the road than it would direct to the airport we were going to, but we had the road. We had that out. In a big way, actually, the direction we took as well has frozen lakes, and frozen lakes aren't a terrible place to put down in a survival situation, you know. Definitely better than a wet lake.
Right.
So there's that aspect to it too.
Yeah, man.
Now, if you went to last day, so it's the last video we've done on that series.
What? I don't know. What? You gotta watch a video for that. Watch a video for that. All right. Last day.
Oh,
More
by the way,
Timbits.
I was going to mention that in that area you just saw, that place I took you to, Daniel got tears in his eyes. That's how touched he was with it. So it was pretty cool.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So where do
So
we?
you're going to skip ahead to... So this is when we started in Great Falls. We were in the USA for the first time. This was our biggest day. We finally got a tailwind, flew all the way from Great Falls to Oshkosh. And the part I want to show you, again, spoilers for everyone, but go to about 35 minutes. And this is the one and only time we did nighttime. It was our last leg to Oshkosh, which was fine. It was flat land. We weren't in the mountains. There wasn't any weather, so it's like, okay, we can do nighttime for 45 minutes, which isn't a big deal. It was really the mountains and the weather were the reason we never did nighttime. So during this process of, I mean, obviously we're taking the plane down to get avionics done while we're here in flight, and things are getting really dark, especially here in a few minutes where it's pitch black. If you skip ahead to like 36 minutes, our vacuum pump fails, which is just a bit of irony that we are about to our destination to get that vacuum pump ripped out for the avionics to get upgraded stuff, and it fails. So that was crazy.
Man.
Obviously nighttime, you got to be pretty cognizant about that. We had on synthetic vision on ForeFlight and just stayed on our toes, had pretty good visibility outside, but you can even get false horizons in that case.
Right.
And yeah, just took her on home.
Yeah,
There you
look
go.
at
You can
that.
see the... Yep.
That's a
Section
big fat zero. Yeah.
Yep.
So
So, yep, there you go.
A little bit of a jump ahead question, but did you remove the whole system? The whole vacuum
Yeah,
system?
because when you get... we ended up getting some Garmin units. I'll tell you guys about that in a second. But it has its own internal ADAHARs or AHARs. So they don't need the vacuum system anymore. It's all removed. It saves you a little bit of weight. And yeah, so they would all be internal solid state units.
Yeah, we did that in the previous plane I was we keep finding funny moments that are out of context there. We did that in our plane because we were having we kept it was like a vacuum pump every 6 months, and eventually we just pulled the system, and then you're like, okay, well now pull the whole vacuum system, and look, we got an extra, I don't remember how much, got some extra useful load, right? It's like,
right, 5 pounds or something.
We don't need that anymore. Yeah, that's like a whole gallon of gas, man, almost.
Yeah.
All right.
I didn't really save much weight on the panel. I mean, this is a good segue. I didn't save much weight because you saw how basic it was in the beginning, and maybe you could pull that up for reference once more.
Yeah.
And then
before
pull up the original one. What?
I gotta highlight a joke though. Marty says the vacuum pump failed and you guys didn't just jump out.
Yeah.
This is a gift that keeps giving, man.
We're fools.
Yeah, what are you doing? All right, so here we go. Let's pull this up. Sorry. So here's the OG panel.
Yep. And then if you bring up the image as well that has like all the crossouts.
Yeah, this guy. So this is the plan, right?
Yeah, so kind of like purple is highlighting things that we're probably going to keep or maybe keeping. And then some other things just showing structure. The red X's are things we're getting rid of. So I don't know. I don't even know what this exercise was about, but it just kind of goes to show how we were going to hack into this quite a bit. And to put it in perspective, we started from scratch. Like almost everything was replaced. The ignition wasn't replaced, and the top switches. Everything else, and the glove box, little door. So that's it. Go ahead.
Oh, I was say because you sent over a picture of like the plan. So you went from this. You have this is like hey, this is what, and I can show the other side, like keeping a few handful of things over here too, and then you develop this plan, right?
Yep. So this is huge spoiler, by the way, for those of you that haven't seen it. But if you haven't seen it yet, then you're only watching my YouTube videos and you didn't watch any of my Instagram content, like flying all the way up. So it hasn't been a secret too much. So can you zoom in on stuff, by the way?
Yeah, for sure.
Or no?
It won't be
you
like super.
Okay.
There was a little teaser there. Here, let's get rid of that. I don't want to spoil anything. Check this out. We'll just get.
You don't have to, by the way.
No, I did it. I'm committed now.
Better for people to see.
Yeah.
That way we can just kind of cruise around.
How's that? A little bit bigger? You want to go even bigger? There we go.
Oh, that's fine. You can just move it around now.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's tricky, and this is what's going to be covered in the video that's coming out tomorrow or the next day. So again, a huge spoiler. But this airplane is a classic airplane. It's an Alaska airplane, and I feel like you can go the full Monty on everything and like get all the big displays, right? Like a lot of people are doing. But I felt like that was out of character for this particular airplane. And I also wanted to show that there are a lot of upgrades and things you can do to an airplane right now that are affordable and practical for like the everyday flyer. So we decided to stick with the 6-pack instruments, and believe it or not, the 4 classic instruments there are redundant. They're not even required at all. You could just put in the GI 275s. Originally, we wanted to put in the G5s, which are very popular. Most people know what the G5s are. But Jessica sat me down the night we got there, and she had been telling me about these GI 275s from Garmin. And she said, you've got to look at this. We've got to compare it side by side, because if you want these, we should order them right now and get them ready for your plane. And within 3 or 4 minutes, even though we talked for an hour about it, I was kind of angry at her because I knew that I had to get them. Like, I could not have them. The refresh rate, the color, the features, like those little attitude, not little, but that instrument that replaces the attitude indicator, all of the fields are like touch. So you'll touch the altitude bar and you'll roll your altitude in, or your altimeter. You actually can do the altitude as well, your altitude pre-select. So you click that, roll in your altitude, do it for airspeed. And it's crazy what you can do with these GI 275s. The bottom one, the HSI, actually gives you several options rather than just the standard like fixed HSI that a lot of people are used to for instrument, and gives you several different maps to work with, which offers some creativity there. So leaps and bounds ahead of the G5. It basically gave us the capabilities that you would see in something like a G1000 NXI with the same display technology, but put it in this little classic package that wasn't too much of a distraction for my students. It was practical. It was affordable. Another thing you struggle with in these airplanes, which I'll cover in depth in this next YouTube video, is the structure that you can work with behind
Sure.
the panel. So the way these yokes were rigged back then is there's like this bar that both yokes are connected to, and when you pull aft on the bar, it comes toward the panel, and it only has like 3 inches of clearance once it reaches the panel, so you can't put any of those instruments there. It's a reason why there's nothing underneath the radio stack, because nothing can go there. It's all like no man's land until you get down to the throttle and stuff. So we've got the Garmin GI275 AI, the attitude indicator, the HSI, but also Garmin has this, they use the 275 to do an engine monitoring system, or an EIS. And so all my instruments, all those gauges that used to be on the right-hand side, everything, including my tachometer and my hobs, all came to that GI275, that round one right below the vertical speed indicator. And yeah, pretty amazing. Someone asked in the chat if I got synthetic vision. The GI275 AI attitude indicator has synthetic vision on it in the background, so you can kind of see terrain and mountains there.
Sure. And then
So yeah.
And then over here, right, you've got like an iPad.
Yeah, so getting rid of all the engine instruments freed up space to kind of centralize what I call the data management system of the airplane. And obviously having something like ForeFlight's been really beneficial for all of us. And I want it to be central to my panel. So we put an iPad Pro over there on a pivot mount. It's directly mounted to the panel. It's got some life in it because Pivot makes cases for every new iPad that comes out. So it's the standard like Pivot connection. So when we need to get a new case with a newer iPad, we can just slide it in. I really don't like those panels where you get an iPad mini and it's indented into the panel. Like, what happens when the form factor changes? You're going to be in a world of hurt. So it's got some legs that way. The iPad talks back and forth to the GNX 375, the GPS that's there in the middle from Garmin. That's also where the transponder is. So you'll literally plan your flight on the iPad. You say send to panel, and then with a few button clicks on the GPS, it will load your entire flight, no matter how complicated it is. It'll literally bring over the approaches that you load up as well on the iPad. It's pretty wild.
That is pretty wild. You know what else? I should just show people what the panel looks like. I mean, this is what it looks like.
Yeah, now you can go to the real thing. So that's how it really looks, which is essentially the only difference there is that the circuit breakers ended up kind of left and bottom on the pilot side. Yeah, but it's very functional, works very well. It's incredibly capable. And I did IFR, like hard IFR, right out of Oshkosh. First leg, first flight, going home. I was in the thick of it for like 2 hours alone. Single pilot IFR is crazy.
So a couple reactions to that, right? Like, one is when I came up to see what you guys were working on in Oshkosh, what I think I said to you at the time was I loved how you just talked about it a little bit. I loved how you kept like the spirit of the airplane in the
right.
panel, and someone just, I think it was Zachary said it in the chat too. He said, like, look at the yokes, right? Like you kept it feeling like the plane that it started as.
Right.
In the
which
round
is very
gauges.
important to me.
Yeah. I really admire that. I think that's really cool. And I think too, the other thing that was amazing was when you guys and this is not my show is not sponsored by Garmin, but I will say the capability, right? The capability in those small instruments was truly kind of mind-blowing. Like, you and Jessica like sat me down, like, check this thing out. Like, look at all this stuff this can do. And I was thinking to myself, like, oh man, when I'm, building an airplane someday or buy an airplane someday, like, I'm a sucker for the round gauge thing and for the nostalgia thing, and like that alone would bring me in. And then two, like, and I don't know if anyone else feels this way. I don't know if it's because I learned in round gauges. Like, I feel like, and I haven't, flown in your plane or a plane with these instruments yet to feel that way, but I feel like I read them better than like the classic like PFD with the tapes and obviously you have tapes on there and everything. I'm just like, I feel like my brain needs to see the round to like know where to look.
Yeah.
And that's after spending years in a plane with a Aspen, big, the tall PFD and like a Garmin 750, like giant GPS, right? Like, even after all that time, it still felt like I just it didn't feel the same. So anyway, people want to see the, I put my face up and everyone's like, show us the panel again. But that was one thing that I thought was really cool. And I think the other thing too, is the way the iPad integration works in seeing it in person, right? Is like really elegantly done. And that it's big. It's big and like easy to read. Super cool.
Yep. Yeah, and the whole reason for doing this was to get the airplane to an IFR standard. We did go a bit above and beyond. Like, the finish of the panel just looks really good. We were very detail oriented to make sure. I mean, Jessica and I had discussions on what words to use, like on the top switches. Like, do we use the word wig wag? Do we use the word landing light? Like, we talked about every little thing, and everything was placed just perfectly. Like, you got to do it perfect because the panel's made in Fort Lauderdale, and you get one shot at it. It's not like you can show up. It can show up, and then you shave some things off, and that's not how this works. Like, it's got to be perfect. So, I don't know. The whole idea is IFR panel, upgrade it for the flight school, start to do more IFR content because I haven't been able to do that much yet, and have it be incredibly functional and modern and beautiful and minimalistic. And I think we achieved all of those things. I like that you phrased it, keeping the spirit of 2-3 uniform, because that's exactly what it did. And I'm incredibly proud of the work that they did at New View Technologies in Oshkosh. Definitely recommend people go there if they're in the area. Can't argue. It's one of the best looking panels out there for what it has. It's not the flight deck of a Challenger jet, but it's amazing. Like that, it's a 1963 172, and it looks amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing, and it still feels like. I think what the other thing, actually, this is part of it, and Mike in the chat was like, hey, everyone says that, but it takes about an hour to transition to using the tapes comfortably. 100%, man. It's I think I like the round ones better. The other thing I think from a school perspective, I'm wondering if you feel this way, is that this looks to me more approachable to like a new pilot.
Yeah.
But like it's less fire hosey than like when you get into like, I see a friend of a friend, has a Cirrus, and I look at that even as a pilot myself, right? I look at the flight deck of the Cirrus and I go, wow, that's a lot of stuff.
Right.
Gotta do a lot of stuff.
There's kind of two worlds to that, because like as kind of a tech geek, I totally love the tech too. And I totally want to dip my toes into that world, right? Or I want a leg fully submerged in that world, all right? And I want a leg fully submerged in the stick and rudder world too. Like, I want both. All right? No more dipping toes. We're going to have one full leg in each. We're going to straddle this.
I'm with you.
And so that's one of the reasons why, instead of just like an iPad mini on the right-hand side, I went for an iPad Pro. It's bigger, it's more in your face, it's more screen, but it's there for a reason. It's there as a situational awareness tool, as a data management tool, And so, yeah, there is that minimal part of it that's not intimidating, but there's also the part of it that's like, hey, it's the 21st century, and we're going to utilize these tools we have. Sure. And we can't really shy away from that either, because when it comes to IFR, you may as well have the best tools. I don't find much pride in flying an ADF anymore. I'm just not. I'm a futuristic type of person. That's not how I think. So I'm all about this, kind of mixing the old with the new and toning it down a little bit, having it be, I don't want to call it like the poor man's airplane, but like, this is something that someone could actually afford. You and I will never buy a Cirrus, Ryan. I'm sorry to tell you that, but that's not really in the cards for us.
Probably not.
They're beautiful. I appreciate what they are, but it's not in the cards for what I do. So this is what we get. We get something beautiful like this.
Some questions. We're a little over time, but some questions I want to ask from the chat. One was Zach's wondering about the and by the way, the yokes beautiful. If I remember correctly, you handed one to me and said, "Look at this," and I was like,
I know.
We're
so proud of those.
Really good. The other thing, a little memory, and this, I don't know if this is going to make your edit. I don't even know if I'm going to make your edit. Hope so, because it was fun. You guys had to drill some holes in that panel, and it was really interesting watching you sweat about we gotta make sure this is perfect, because it came from, we'd say it came from Fort Lauderdale. It's gotta be exactly right.
Right.
But anyway, Zach's wondering where those yokes came from.
So they came from Aviation X Aircraft Interiors in Conroe, Texas.
You know what you were doing? You were, sorry to interrupt. You were
go ahead.
You were removing the powder coating on the inside of the.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
it wasn't you were drilling new holes, but you were just like, okay, we got to clean this hole out so it's the right diameter for what's going in, and that was like. Yeah,
because the holes were so precise that with the powder coating they were not precise anymore.
Right. Okay. I don't know if you want to talk. Some people are asking about cost for this sort of thing.
I don't want to go there.
Yeah, I don't know if we need to go there. Sorry, folks. More than $5, let's call it.
Yeah, there you go. More than $5. I'll say more than 10. Yeah.
More than $5, less than a Cirrus.
There you go.
And okay, I think we got caught up on it there. Just scrolling through here because this is the show. Just Plain Silly has yoke envy, so that's good. So he's gonna have to order those for his new Comanche.
Hey, he's in Texas. He can go down there and watch them be made, for heck's sakes.
Oh, that'd be sweet.
Yeah.
Before we wrap it up, I mean, any kind of key takeaways about the thing that I think I said this to you, like that trip, like going back to the trip, right? Like it's a big trip. You did it twice. To me, that feels like a bucket list trip for a lot of folks. Like, if you were to do it again, would you do it differently in any way?
It was a lot of work, and it wasn't really for fun. So, I mean, Canada was also very much in lockdown mode at the time with COVID, so it's not like we could stop and have a look around and hang out with the local folks a bunch. We did a little bit just because we needed help with things like the hangar and stuff like that. But yeah, it was a lot of work, man. Like, it was a trip that stressed me out. It was outside my normal comfort zone. I learned a whole lot in the process because of it. It was a big risk. I would say it was a risk financially. It wasn't an inherent huge risk to safety or anything because we took so many safety precautions. But we I don't know. We just put a whole lot of work into it. The flight back was incredibly difficult. The first part of it was pretty okay, even though we had some IFR, which was fine because the temperatures were good. But our last couple days were very hard flying. I mean, we used all of the skills that we had, IFR, commercial, CFI, and even then having to be humble about who we were. So it was a lot of work. If I did it for fun, I would take much longer, and there wouldn't be like an end date to it, at least not something that was near in the future. So I don't know. It's just a long way to go.
Yeah, I mean, even in an airplane, right?
Even in an airplane.
It's just a long way to go.
And that just makes it even more critical. You can't pull over. I mean, I guess in a way you could. You could land on the highway, but we didn't want to have to do that. It was a lot, and it was big. Like, it was big for me to do, and I won't be that, I guess, vulnerable on my own YouTube channel because I don't want to be dramatic about it. But like, it really was a pretty big thing that we did and put ourselves out there to do it, and lots of safety considerations, lots of paperwork crossing the border during COVID times. I put my neck out on the line financially to get the airplane done. So, a lot of transitions happened during that process, and I don't regret doing it. I'm very happy with the product I have. I'm very pleased with the instruments that I have, with the panel that I have. It's been great working with partners like Garmin on it. I'm a Garmin ambassador now, which is fantastic because I love their products. It's been amazing to fly IFR with this thing, and I'm a huge proponent of that. So I'm just really, really happy with where it's at. No regrets. Had a great time, learned a lot, and very, very grateful to have the opportunity to share that with everyone since we documented it all. So definitely, I mean, we're just scratching the surface here, but definitely go check out the YouTube series and you guys can see more of what happened.
Yeah, I mean, and I say this all the time, right? Like, you could go watch the guy with fire extinguishers in his pants, or you could go watch like real aviators doing like real things. Like,
right.
And I know you're talking about the workload of it, and I think that's important for people to remember, right? Because I think, every once in a while you're like popping around on like a pilot forum or something like that, and you hear kind of these like rough and tumble stories of, oh, I'm getting tired. Excuse me. That's why I was drinking coffee before I started the show. We had a really early call time on set this morning. And drove back from Cedar Rapids before. And that whole time I was looking at I was driving, and I was like, man, like, I wish I was flying. That's always the case. But you hear these stories on,
right.
Long story short, you hear these stories on forums and stuff where people like get kind of blindsided by the workload, right? And they get blindsided by the workload, and then they have a bad experience, or it diminishes their experience. And I don't have the kind of cross-country, I mean, certainly not the kind of cross-country time that you experienced there. I think the farthest I've flown, I don't know, I don't remember exactly, up to Minnesota and back. It was like a long day for like a Lifeline flight with Marty, the guy we were talking about before, who's in the chat. And that was through some hard IFR that he did, because I'm not IFR rated, and we did, just pretty epic day, and like being like exhausted, I don't know, all that stuff we talked about. It's still amazing, but like, I think there's the whole thing of like, don't forget, like, this was hard work. We didn't just like point it to Oshkosh and like magically teleport. I mean, you kind of did, because airplanes are magic, but
they kind of, yeah, they really are.
But anyway.
Yeah,
but
there's a lot that goes into it. A lot in between, as anyone knows that's flown, it was a lot of everything, a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of laughs. Someone asked if the thrill and the stress factor took away the fun. No, if you watch the videos, the singing gets more frequent as we go throughout the flight. There's lots of laughs. I think that breaks the tension too, right? You can't be too serious in every moment. You have to enjoy the journey too. So yeah, we definitely had our moments where we really enjoyed it, and it was very enjoyable going down. It was a lot of work going back. It was different than going down. So that's next.
That's
YouTube.
next. Well,
Subscribe.
yeah, subscribe here. Go subscribe there. Go subscribe everywhere. Here, there, and everywhere. You got time to play a game real quick before we sign off?
Dude, yeah. My wife's out of town. I can do whatever I want.
What are you gonna eat for dinner tonight?
I kind of thought this is gonna sound awful.
No,
I kind of thought I might eat. Yeah, I thought I might go get some corn dogs or something. My wife would never let me eat corn dogs in the house, but I'm doing it. But
no, so this thing, my friend Mike was on. He's a director of photography, and his wife was out of town last weekend. We're on set Friday we wrapped a little early, and he was all excited that we wrapped early. Because, it's nice to wrap early in the weekend. And he says, I was like, what are you doing? What are you doing this week? He's like, well, I'm a bachelor this weekend. I'm going to get crazy. And I was like, what's getting crazy, man? He's like, I'm going to go to the store. I'm going to get a crappy frozen pizza.
Yeah.
Get some ice cream, some beer. Just eat that for dinner. And I was like,
exactly.
That's getting crazy. He's like, oh, yeah. Yeah. Because my wife would never let me eat a crappy frozen pizza, which means she's amazing. But, like... he's like, I just need to get some junk. And I was like, there you go, man. I get it.
Okay, so it's funny. That's exactly what I did. I went to the store, and I even discovered Tapatio Doritos. And I love Tapatio hot sauce. I could put it, dude, they are amazing. So, yeah, I definitely went and got my stuff for the week.
Nice. There you go. All right, let's play short final. Angle of attack, Chris Palmer. It's short final. We're going to talk about your trip. Epic music. Making sure that's not too loud. Or maybe not loud enough. We don't know. It doesn't matter. My computer's not... I can't get to the timer. There we go. Okay, too many buttons. We're off to a great start for year 3 of SuperAero Live. All right, Chris Palmer. How many Timbits did you eat?
I probably had 19 by myself.
Whew, okay. Out of all the airports you landed at on the trip there, which one was your favorite?
Watson Lake, Canada, Yukon Territory.
We'll talk about that in a second. I don't remember from last time, so I'm going to ask again. North up or track up?
North up.
Okay. Even on the little guy? You're just doing the
Oh, yeah.
Never mind.
Definitely on the little guy. It depends on the situation, though. If you're really close, then track up.
Got it. Okay. And what's the next modification to your amazing plane? What's up next?
I'm getting new seats, and I'm getting a stole kit done on the front of the wing.
No kidding. I thought you were going to be like, nothing. Yeah. I'm done.
No way, man. Little by little.
Are you going to come compete in National Stole? That's a thing you should do.
No. No. It really, truly, it won't be a stole performer, but it increases the glide distance from like a 7-to-1 ratio to a 13-to-1.
Well, that's not nothing.
So, I know it's not, right? I mean, geez, if something goes wrong, you can get somewhere
a lot
further away. So
yep. I just want to point out, people are competing in National Stole in like stock, like Cherokee 180s and stuff. So, like, you could be a contender, Chris.
But they pull everything out. I mean, here's the main issue. I have the original engine in this thing. It's 145 horse. It is totally gutless. Now, if I took the seats out, like if I took the passenger seat out, the back seat, had light fuel, I might be able to get off pretty quick, but I don't know.
Well, all you need to do is get off the ground.
I know. I could.
It
would be fun.
You don't need to have like a huge vertical. You just need to like bloop, win.
I haven't really built that skill yet, and it has the manual flaps, so like it's set up for it.
That would help.
Yeah,
dude.
It definitely would.
We'll find National Stole is growing. You come and do some hot boy stuff. So do some hot boy
You just
stuff
want me to fly down again for a national
Well, no,
Stoll
there'll
event?
probably eventually be one like closer to you.
Valdez Stoll, man, the OG.
Yeah, go do that. That would be cool. I want to come.
Sorry to name drop. I don't know if they're a competitor or anything like that. I don't know how that goes.
I don't know.
I don't think Valdez cares, by the way. It's like just a rodeo where like local bush pilots show up if the weather's not too bad. So it's not too serious.
It's all one big Stoll family, from what I understand. Everyone's loving everything. A lot of people really digging the Stoll kit idea. That's super cool. Let's see what else in here. Jeff says put a 94-inch prop on it. Mike says put a PT6 in it.
Yeah.
You know, we'll talk to Patey. You guys can do a collab.
Yeah,
So.
Patey's awesome. A really small tangent, but I went fanboy on Patey right there at the end with Scrappy. I'm not one to really like jump on the bandwagon. Like I'll be honest, there are a lot of YouTubers that I'm just like, and famous aviation people I know, but it like doesn't impress me. You know what I mean? Just like, oh yeah, we all fly. You guys create content too. That's really cool. Big happy family. But Patey, dude, that guy. He is awesome. Totally look up to him.
Yeah, I mean, I've never met him, but I love what he's doing, and I love how he's bringing a different. Like what I've noticed is like the people that watch your channel, people that watch my channel, they're kind of like already into it. Like we're showing how amazing this can be to people who are already interested in it. What I love about Patey's stuff is like it's people who are like, I'm an engineer, or I'm a people who are like I'm interested in CNC machining, or whatever, right? And they find his channel and they're learning and they get exposed to aviation. Now he's bringing like a whole new audience into aviation content. That's kind of the really special thing about it.
Yeah,
among other things.
Yeah. I mean, he just deserves all the respect. Like even Draco was really impressive, and I thought it was cool. And I took selfies with Draco. You know, I'm that guy too, just because it does deserve respect. But I really never saw behind the scenes like he documented with Scrappy, and it wasn't until he showed his plan for the flaps and how the flaps would work that I'm like, all right, this guy is legit. Like he knows what he's doing, and I am a fanboy. And my son was too. In fact, my son said. He told me to go talk to Mike, or he didn't tell me that, but I told him I was going to be there at Oshkosh to see Scrappy, and he's like, Dad, if Scrappy does a barrel roll loop, you need to FaceTime me right away. I'm like, okay, buddy, I'll call you right away.
Oh,
awesome.
Man. I love that. You never know with him. There's going to be a barrel roll loop on YouTube. You never know with that guy.
Like you said, the different demographic. Like my son doesn't like to watch my stuff. He doesn't care unless he's in it or something. But Mike
kids
stuff,
don't care.
Yeah, he's totally into Mike stuff.
Well, there you go, Mike. If you're watching, come on this show, so that Chris's kids can watch you on my show. We'll figure it out. All right. Chris,
right on, man.
Dude, it's so good to catch up with you, man. I miss you. I'm hoping we run into each other a little bit again this year at all the crazy stuff. And I want to thank you kind of publicly. And you're such a good cheerleader for the aviation community, especially like the creator community. Like you've always been kind of slapping me on the back and saying, "Get out there, cowboy! Get out there, man! Keep making stuff."
It's
and
true.
I really appreciate that, and that's really cool that you do that. So thanks for sharing your story with us tonight about this. And seriously, everyone, like, as soon as this stream's over, go watch those episodes on Chris's channel. They're really, really awesome, and it's just such an epic trip. And I think it not, again, we talked about not diminishing it or anything like that, like in terms of the workload, but it is like this is the kind of stuff that we all got into this for, I think. Some version of that.
It is.
You're going to see, I think, if I can just pump it up a little bit more before we sign off. Like, you're going to see at some point in there, you're going to see something that you saw in yourself or wanted for yourself or dreamt of inside, right? When you were thinking about becoming a pilot or you're an aviation enthusiast, like whatever brings you to aviation, you're going to see part of yourself in that. And that's what makes it truly special.
So true, man. You have a way. You just have a way, Ryan, with words. I tell you what, you are the closer, man.
You can put that on the movie poster. You can have that. Anyway.
Awesome. Thanks for all you do, and thanks for having me on the show, man. Really appreciate it. Always a huge supporter of you, the Ryan brand, but also the SuperAero brand. So thanks for all you do too.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, it's good, and it's good. I appreciate you coming back, bringing us back into the new year. That's your job now. Apparently,
It's a tradition
every year. So next year, 2023, you'll be the first show again. We'll keep rocking this thing out.
That's right, buddy. I'll be here. Let's put it on the calendar.
We'll figure it out right now. All right, everybody else, how good to be back with all of you. How great to be back with all of you this week, to see you and to chat with you and talk airplanes with you. I did miss you. I was gone. Make sure, if you're new, I saw some new faces in there, like Shel Mafaf, who's another Russian bot that I'm going to ban in just a second. We'll do that right now. See you later, Shell. Make sure to subscribe, like, all that jazz. And if you want to really get in depth, you really love the show, there's a really special group of people that support the show financially through Patreon. That's a huge thing. Really does. It's just like keeps me going. It's a way to keep making that content, and all the support I get from that. It's truly a Sky Fam. We call ourselves the Sky Fam, and so appreciative of that. And thanks to those people who were super supportive of the little vacation I took too. That was really kind that you guys were reaching out and saying, no, take the time, do what you gotta do. That means a lot, because I think there's a lot of pressure sometimes to create just on the calendar. And so that my heart keeps growing 3 sizes every time I meet you guys. So anyway, I'm going to say goodbye to my friend Chris here. Chris, dude, thanks so much for coming on this week. Again, we will see you soon, and see everyone else next week.
Throttle on. Thanks.